Guys, welcome back to Between the Ropes TV. As always, I'm joined with Josh and Ben. We're going to, after the, probably one of the fights of the century, we're moving straight on and we're jumping into the Sky Sports boxer card that's coming at the weekend. So a few big names, obviously, in this one, especially with Eubank Jr. having his fight cancelled the other week. Guys, before we start, massive thank you to all our new subs. And if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do so and hit the like button on the video to help this video get seen more. Let's dive into the card then. We've got Eubank Jr. versus Wanik Ordajan. I think I've pronounced that right. That was a bit of a mouthful. How much do we need to say here? I mean, this is set up for a Eubank win, isn't it? Make Eubank look pretty. I mean, he's only fourth on the undercard, which is a bit of a disgrace from my view. But it is due to the fact that his fight got cancelled, isn't it? And this is what the third opponent has been given in the last 4 weeks. Josh, I mean, it's pretty much a Eubank win, isn't it?
I'd say so, yeah. A lot of what we said on the preview for the show a couple of weeks ago applies, really. I think it's just a case of getting him back in the ring. He's not been in there since the start of May. He's got a good record, but it has been inactive the last couple of years, obviously with COVID and everything else. So it's about getting him back in there, exploring more what he can do with his new training team in Roy Jones Jr. And to be honest, I'm going to give credit to Sky and Boxer because after the cancellation a fortnight ago, I think it's brilliant that they've managed to get him back in so quickly. I mean, as for his opponent, Ordijan, if we've got it right, he's 28-1 with 11 knockouts, which, in fairness, at face value, that's quite good. But when you actually look at who he's fought a lot of journeymen. I think he'd beat the same guy 3 times consecutively. It is a padded record. And I'm backing Eubank to stop him within 3 or 4 rounds. And I'm hoping, go on.
Sorry, I was going to say, as Tyson Fury would say, he's a bit of a dosser, isn't he, really?
Funny how you've changed your tune, isn't it? Everyone was Bomb Squad last week. This week, it's a dosser.
Look, we won't speak about that too much, but fair play to Fury. He picked up the win. Goes down as probably the greatest of all time in the heavyweight division.
No, we'll have to do a separate video.
Goes down as a gladiator, a warrior, guy that was willing to die on his sword. And more importantly, when you look at AJ, speaking about AJ versus Wilder, I want to get this out here because I did tweet it before we move on to the next card. I asked Ben his view on Eubank. AJ quit in his corner, standing up against Ruiz. Wilder, he was willing to die in the ring. These two fighters are not the same, and I never want to hear comparisons of those two. That's for another video. Ben, Eubank Jr., you're going to agree with everything Josh said, I reckon, aren't you, on this one? Because there's no way you're backing him to lose.
No, I'll back him to win. It's good to see him coming out. I just think, like, what you were saying down the card fourth. Yeah, I know. But I think it's kind of like you can't expect him to jump the card. This card is already made, so you just can't expect him to be able to jump in and be higher up it. But the one thing I like is the fact that Sky wanted to get him out so urgently. I feel there's a plan for him. It could be just reading between the lines, maybe. I could be making it up or wishful thinking. But they want to get him out so soon. And I don't really think the opponents really... Look at the 3 opponents he's had. None of them matter. I do think he's going to win his fight, and then within a few weeks, there's an announcement for a fairly big name where he headline his own card. And so to me, with that fight, I'm just looking past it already.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout, to be fair. I think, obviously, Eubank Jr., I think people want to see him in the bigger fights, and I think him himself now, he'll want to get back to that level of testing himself with the best. Moving on, we've got Lewis Ritson coming up against the Yank, Henry Lundy. God, Josh, take over because I am struggling today.
I was going to say, you've lost your Eddie. You've gone into a heavyweight rant cut me off to do it as well. But no, yeah, we've got Lewis Ritson. He's 21-2. The 2 losses, as we know, he stepped up at lightweight for the European, lost, and he stepped up last time out against Jeremiah Ponce. Also, he was dominated in that fight, in fairness. He's just left Matchroom. This is, it's a new platform. He's stuck with Sky, but obviously signed with Benchlam on Boxer, and he needs to rebuild, I think. At lightweight, he had quite a lot of power, which I don't really think he's successfully brought up to 140. But, this is a chance he can rebuild. Lundy's a decent enough fighter, similar in a lot of ways. I mean, he's coming in with a record of 31 wins, 9 losses, 1 no contest with 14 knockouts. He's been knocked out a couple of times. Last time out, lost to Jose Zepeda. So, it's similar in terms of he's stepped up and he's fallen short at that level. Not quite to the same level as Ritson, but this is a good opponent. It's experienced. It's by no means a gimme fight. So I'm quite looking forward to this one, actually. I think it could be quite decent. But, if you force me for a prediction, I would be going Lewis Ritson on points.
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to be a close one. Probably maybe one of the closer ones on the card. Ben, with that in mind, usually when there's a close fight, you and Josh disagree. Are we going to see a disagreement here? Are you also, are you also backing the Yank to get a smacking?
Wouldn't necessarily say a smacking. What have you been smoking, Scott? You're on to it today. No, I agree with Josh. I think with Ritson, when you're a boxer and you've just signed someone, they're having their first fight under you, you're not going to put them in a risky fight. You're going to get them, build a profile, get people to take notice. And for Ritson, it's just great for him. I think it's a great move to boxer for him because he's not the biggest name they've got, but he's not the smallest name. Whereas you go to Eddie Hurt, and again, he won't be the smallest name, but he's not going to headline many fights anymore. And I just think he was slowly falling down the pecking order under Matchroom, where boxer, being a smaller stable, I think they'll put more into him. I think managed correctly, he could push a little further on. So I think it's a good move by him. It's just a fight to get him in the ring, and that's what he needs. And then I think he can push on from there.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, moving on to obviously the next fight coming up, we've got a good women clash. Obviously, again, Savannah Marshall back in action. I mean, her record speaks for itself. 10 wins, 0 losses, 8 of those coming by KO. Definitely a big name in the women's division. I've struggled to get my words out all night, so I'm gonna probably struggle again with her opponent. But Loletta, yeah, I knew I was gonna. I don't know what's happening for me today. Loletta Wazaya, I got there. Josh, how are you predicting this one? I'm guessing Savannah Marshall pick up the win again, but are you predicting a knockout maybe?
No, I am predicting a knockout. I mean, to be fair to Savannah Marshall, again, left Matchroom, part of the Peter Fury camp. They've Savannah and Hughie have obviously both followed onto Sky and Boxer. She's WBO middleweight champion for a reason. She's a proper talent. She's the only woman to have ever beaten Clarissa Shields, obviously, albeit before the pro days. But Clarissa Shields also fights now on Sky through the Boxer platform. So I'm really hoping this is just a tune-up fight and we're going to get an announcement for that. Possibly the biggest fight in women's boxing. It's certainly that or Serrano Taylor. But in fairness, looking into this, it's not the easiest fight. Mazaya, 16-0, 8 knockouts. I mean, in fairness, it's one of these records that we've talked on this channel about the lack of depth in women's boxing. And it's not as impressive as it really does look. She has fought a lot of people. They've got winning records, but there's a lot of losses and it's quite a 50-50 split. So, but taking nothing away from her, 8 knockouts, it suggests she can bang a little bit. And to be fair, she's undefeated, world title fight. She's going to come to win, isn't she? So we might get a bit of an entertaining fight for a few rounds, but I just think she's just different gravy. So I'm backing Marshall for the knockout, middle rounds.
Ben, obviously, I'm picking up on what Josh said. Obviously, I'm guessing you're probably backing similar Savannah Marshall, but does she need to be careful of her opponent, especially with the, she does have some knockouts to her name. Is that danger of maybe that, a knockout shock, a shock knockout, or is this very much going to be maybe a Savannah Marshall win to set her up for a bigger fight coming up?
So I think with every fight, you've got to be wary of them catching you, haven't you? But I think, my thing with Savannah Marshall, it's great to see her back. I like to watch her because I think she's a really good boxer, but never interested. For the simple reason, I know Savannah Marshall's winning. The only woman today who can beat Marshall around those kind of weights is Shields. And the only person who can beat Shields is Marshall. So when them two fight, they're getting the win. It's good to see them out there. It's good to watch them, but I know they're both going to win every time. So every time they're fighting, I just want that announcement. I just want them to fight, and then that'll be an exciting one. So I'm happy to see her, but she's going to win. I don't think anyone can beat her apart from Shields. And like I say, it works both ways, though. So really, it frustrates me that I haven't got that fight because I find myself a little disinterested because if you know the result, you're not as interested in it.
Agree, and it's an interesting one, isn't it? That, mate, we've just come off the back of one of probably the greatest trilogies of all time. Could this be, a major women's boxing trilogy? I think the boxing fans would want to see it. I think it would be an interesting one. So maybe, hopefully, we'll watch out for it. Let's move on to the main event. Hughie Fury coming up against Christian Hammer. Josh, are we expecting a good old Christian to take a hammer in here?
Do you know what? I was waiting for the hammer joke, and you didn't disappoint. So I'm not going to say congratulations because it was pretty pathetic, but we'll move on.
I think considering how I've gone so far in this video, I think I deserve some respect for that, just for getting my words out.
I had to sit next to you for 5 hours on Saturday night, Sunday morning with a Deontay Wilder top on. There's absolutely no respect coming your way for a good long time, mate. So on this fight, again, Hughie Fury trained with his dad, Peter. He's moved the camp over to, stuck with Sky, but over to Boxer as opposed to Matchroom. 25-3, 14 knockouts. I'm a bit like, with Hughie Fury, to be honest with you. Losses every time he stepped up to world level, but there's no shame in losing to Pulev in Bulgaria. Obviously, lost to Parker, lost to Povetkin, but he didn't disgrace himself. The points losses, so it's not the worst thing. He's still only 27, so I do think he's probably at that point now where he's not going to develop any more physically. So sort of, for want of a better phrase, his man strength is probably there now. So hopefully we'll start to see sort of punch power improve a little bit because last time out against Marius Wack, Wack was wrong side of 40, definitely on the slide. And his punches were sort of, at times, they were just bouncing off Wack, which is concerning at heavyweight. Because, as we saw on Saturday, one punch changes everything, doesn't it? So,
no, for sure.
That's a concern. But again, I think, he's got this platform now. And probably a lot of what we said about other fighters here and a lot about this Sky platform, they've left Matchroom because they were mid-card fighters. On Sky, he's probably going to end up being a headliner because they've not got the depth of talent pool. So, I think this is a decent name in fairness, Christian Hammer. Very similar in the sense that he's 26 wins, 7 losses, 16 knockouts. So he can obviously bang, but everybody can at heavyweight. Everyone's capable. But some of his losses, you think 7 losses, oh dear. For those who don't know him, he's been in with Povetkin, Luis Ortiz, Tyson Fury. Most recently, in terms of a name, he lost to Tony Yoka in France last year.
Yes, yeah.
But he's been in there, he's experienced. And to be fair, Hughie Fury's not been the most active either, has he? He last fought on the AJ Pulev undercard last December against Wack. So I'm looking forward to seeing him back, get some rounds in. And again, I think it applies to sort of, other than Ritson, it definitely applies to Marshall and Eubank. I hope they win this fight, look good doing it, and we start getting some announcements of big fights for these people because Hughie Fury, we've been talking about him as being fringe world level for a few years now, haven't we? So it'd be nice to see him get back in the mix because if he loses, he's sort of bordering on looking like a tribute act of his cousin, isn't he?
I mean, he kind of is a mid-fighter in my opinion. I mean, we've spoke about it'd be good to see him getting back to world level. I feel any time he's kind of tried to step anywhere near it, you look at his 3 losses: Joseph Parker, Pulev, Povetkin. It seems any time he tries to step above mid-level, he ends up getting ends up losing. But the same could be said about his opponent, really. As you say, Josh, he has got a lot of losses on his record, but some of them are quite, formidable losses. The ones against the likes of Ortiz, Povetkin as well. They're not disgraceful losses. They just seem to be 2 mid-fighters coming together. Ben, what are your thoughts on this one? Obviously, going for a Hughie Fury win, and do either of these fighters have the potential to maybe take that step up again, or are they just going to become these kind of mid fighters that are just going to always be kind of there to practically lose any time they step back up?
I don't think there's anywhere for Hammer left to go, in my opinion. He's took the fights. His biggest name is probably his win against David Price. But I just think that for Hughie Fury, every time he jumps up, he does struggle to. He never looks convincing either. Povetkin and Pulev, there wasn't even close.
No,
you can't even dispute the results. But I'm not saying he'll never be world champion. Because if the belts come available, Charles Martin was world champion, and he's a name you could see in a title shot if there's just a vacant one. So I'm not saying he'll never get there, but for me, if he's got to face a world champion who's there now, any of the top 4, not including Wilder because he's retired, then no, he won't beat any of them, wouldn't even come close. But he takes the fights, and I like the fact he will take the fights, Bulgarian. But Josh covered most of the points because for whatever reason, you've had it in for me today, Scott. You've gone to Josh every time, and he said the main points. Well, to be honest, I guess I'll wrap it up there because you're just sucking up to him. Now he was right about Fury, and I just...
Well, I had to take the brains of the channel. I think that's what it is. I had to take the brains of the channel.
You got Usyk, he got AJ, so I don't think there is a brains.
Oh, we are tied, actually. We are tied. Is there any big fights coming up that might be...
Dillian White, Otto Walling.
Well, I'm predicting a White win, so
Same.
I think Josh will. Well, there's an insight into our White Walling preview. Guys, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and of course, we shall hopefully see you on the next video.
Cheers.
Goodbye.